Kids these days. There are a lot fewer of them, and that's not a good thing. Hi folks, I'm Paul, and this is my take. To me, one of the most detestable things about modernity is how society has engineered us to feel towards children and families. I see it all the time in advertising, in op-ed pieces, in media. For at least the last decade, probably even more, there has been a concerted effort to discourage and, to some degree, even condemn having children and forming families. And that's why this recent ad by Nike has received a lot of attention lately. It's simple, it's charming, it's uplifting. It promotes a message that, at worst, one might have a neutral opinion about. And for the most part, the worst kind of reactions have been neutral. But those reactions have also come along with a lot of sneering and gaslighting. We don't care. The conservatives have this made-up victim complex about how liberals have been trying to discourage them from having kids and families. That's ridiculous. We don't have any kind of anti-child perspectives. Well, are we just going to pretend like you don't? I'm not even going to go into how the main Democratic platform of the last presidential election was giving women the unfettered access to killing their own children. Actually, you know what? I am going to go into it a little bit. They had vasectomy buses at these rallies. They had a giant inflatable IUD at the DNC. What do these things have in common with one another? The cessation of the ability to create children. Now, if you really don't want to have children, that's okay, that's fine. Take the necessary steps to prevent that for yourself, like a vasectomy. But the jubilant celebration of this kind of stuff is it's weird, man. And that was a major issue of the liberal campaign, probably the biggest issue that they ran on. And of course, being anti-children or anti-family is not an inherently liberal or leftist position to take. I know of several people who are more aligned with the political left who have very good and functional families. So obviously, it's not a position that every liberal adheres to. But it is exclusively a left-wing position. It's often paired with some other primarily leftist idea, like feminism or climate alarmism. I've never seen any anti-family positions that are taken from the right wing. I'm sure you could find an example somewhere, but there's no possible way that you could make a convincing argument that it exists in any kind of comparable scale to what we see from the left. Generally, if I were to sum up the left-wing position on creating families just from what I've seen and read, it would be along the lines of, if you choose to have a family, that's fine. But you should be mindful of how your family impacts the environment. We don't support the idea of having large families because families with lots of children are ecologically damaging. Children can also be harmful to women in particular, as they can hamper or delay her ability to advance in her career. And through this, potentially cause unnecessary financial stress. If you're watching this from a left-wing perspective, first off, thank you for checking out this video, but also let me know if you feel like that's an unfair representation. I don't want to be unfair, and I don't think I am, but please let me know in the comments below if you think I am. That's the most general, neutral way I can articulate my understanding of the liberal idea regarding families that I see propagated from the left. Whereas on the right, a general summation of their position would be along the lines of, the only thing more important than family is God. We encourage family formation. Having children helps you understand the conservative worldview better. Families are the foundational building blocks of society. And without the next generation and those who are willing to create the next generation and raise it, well, there's really not much point in sustaining or improving society that we live in right now. Now, we don't recommend having children irresponsibly. That's also why we're pro-marriage. That's the first step in forming healthy and successful families. And that's also why we tend to feel the way we do about sexual relations between men and women. And we don't recommend people engage in the kind of activity that would result in a pregnancy if that would be an undesirable outcome. Basically, don't sleep with anyone that you wouldn't feel comfortable raising a child with. Now, both positions come with caveats and nuances, but one is much more encouraging of children and starting families. However, a frequent criticism from the left towards the right regarding this issue is that the left supports governmental policies that help people who have children, but they often gloss over the fact that these children are had pretty irresponsibly. They support programs like EBT, SNAP, welfare, and a lot of right-wing people, myself included, are not 100% opposed to having programs and systems like this. I think it's good to have some kind of safety net within our society to help people who make mistakes or find themselves in a position that is undesirable for them. But these programs in their current form are grossly abused. These systems have undermined the role of the father in a lot of cases and have turned the government into the provider. And so the concept of a family, a mother, a father, and children, it's dissolved by a heavy reliance on these systems. In many cases, these systems have incentivized out-of-wedlock births in order to receive these tax-supported benefits. And this creates a lot of dysfunction. It's very disordered. Through taxation, it takes funds and opportunity from people who are productive and maybe would actually really like to start a family. And in many cases, it could even prevent them or discourage them from starting a family because they don't have those funds that they previously would have before taxation. And it gives those benefits to people who don't really care about those things, people who don't care about being productive, people who just want the benefits. And that's why it's really important that we emphasize family, a mother, a father, and children, and the role of parents and what it means to be a provider. And I understand the empathetic nature of these liberal programs. The idea of essentially spreading the amount of suffering around to other members in the community who can bear the load. But I don't know how anyone could believe in its current system that this is any way sustainable. But back to the general idea of there being an anti-children and anti-family presence within our culture. To see reactions like this to the Nike ad and say that the right is essentially jousting at windmills, that's complete gaslighting. Throughout my entire young adulthood into adulthood, I have seen countless examples that disparage the traditional family and discourage having children. Anti-children messaging has gone back as far back as the 90s, probably even before then, but this is an early example from a Captain Planet cartoon. This was directed at children, telling them not to have large families.
Earth's resources are limited.
You do not need to have a big family.
Because all the world's people are your brothers and sisters.
The power is yours.
And I'm sure that there are examples that you could find even earlier than the 90s, but I wasn't around for that. This ad is an obvious and low-hanging fruit, but this condom ad has always bothered me. It is explicitly anti-children. Oh, your 3-year-old is having a meltdown in the grocery store? Man, don't you wish you could have made a choice 4 years ago that would forever delete him? Yikes. Sorry, that's kind of a dark and gross message. A lot of people found this ad funny. I never did. There are countless anti-children, anti-family articles that pop up all the time. And it might be naughty of me to notice this, but I really only ever see this kind of messaging directed towards white parents and white children. Headlines like, "White families foster white supremacy," and stock images that only ever seem to feature white babies, white people. There might be examples of messaging that feature people of other ethnicities, but as I was gathering materials for this video, I did not see any. And it gets particularly weird and maybe even a little bit nefarious when you start to see stats of what parts of the world are having more children and what parts of the world are having fewer. And I'm not going to dwell on this point, but it is something I've noticed, and I don't think I'm a schizo for noticing it. And another example of anti-family, anti-child attitudes that I've seen have just been in interactions on social media. There are entire subreddits dedicated to this idea. Subreddits like r/antinatalism or r/child-free. There are forums that are completely in support of being against the family, against children. And it's kind of weird. Even this recent post on X gained a ton of traction. Like, why do you hate this? What's to hate about that? I'm sorry you hate it, but it's true. Men, by and large, do want that. I would love to receive pictures like this from my wife. Why is that a detestable thing for men to desire? And I've seen this image before, and I've seen it receive a lot of the same kind of negative reactions, mostly from women who are bothered by the fact that she appears to be young. And it's like, yeah, she's a young mom. She looks like she's probably between 19 and 21. So what? Why is that bad? She has a ring on her finger. She's married. She looks happy. She looks healthy. So does the baby. That's good. Why does this receive a hateful reaction? This is a very desirable thing by most men for pretty much the entirety of mankind's existence up until about 50 years ago. Why are we now acting like this is an unusual or bad thing? I understand that parenthood is not for everyone. Not everyone wants to start a family, and that's fine. But to say that there hasn't been an attitude of anti-family or anti-children, and there hasn't been a noticeable push to discourage people away from that, that is an absurd claim, and I'm gonna call foul on it. Anyway, that's all I've got for today, but I'm interested to know what you think. Have you noticed these trends as well? Maybe you're in the camp of thinking that this is all overblown and people like me are overreacting. Whatever thoughts you have, I would love to hear them in the comments below. If you enjoy my content and want to see more, I would really appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. Hope you're all having a fantastic day, and I will see y'all next time.